Bună ziua, dragi prieteni! Săptămâna trecută, Lonely Planet și-a publicat lista anuală Best in Travel pentru anul 2021 ca o recunoaștere a locurilor, oamenilor și comunităților care transformă industria turismului. În acest clasament, Gothenburg din Suedia ocupă primul loc în categoria durabilității. De fapt, în fiecare an, încă din 2016, Gothenburg este recunoscut ca cea mai durabilă destinație din lume și de Global Destination Sustainability Index. Nu este de mirare, pentru că regiunea Gothenburg este un lider în dezvoltarea durabilă și de mediu. Având în vedere obiectivul Suediei de a fi independentă de combustibili fosili până în 2030, Gothenburg a fost primul oraș din lume care a emis obligațiuni verzi pentru a accelera investițiile în soluții climatice. În prezent, 97% din transportul public funcționează cu energie regenerabilă. 95% din hotelurile sale sunt certificate ecologic, iar aeroportul este certificat la cel mai înalt nivel al schemei de acreditare a carbonului. Green Gothenburg face parte din programul Smart City Sweden, finanțat de guvernul suedez și lucrează pentru a spori recunoașterea națională și internațională a regiunii Gothenburg ca lider în dezvoltarea durabilă și de mediu. Vorbim astăzi despre un alt program care ajută la promovarea Gothenburg ca lider în dezvoltarea durabilă, Johanneberg Science Park, înființat în 2009 de Fundația Universității de Tehnologie Chalmers și de orașul Gothenburg. Johanneberg Science Park este o arenă colaborativă pentru dezvoltarea urbană care reunește mediul academic, societatea și o varietate de companii mari și mici. Împreună conduc proiecte de inovare naționale și internaționale și testează soluții pentru provocările viitoare pe baza activităților desfășurate în prezent în cadrul disciplinelor de dezvoltare urbană, mediu, energie, materiale și nanoștiințe. Invitații de astăzi sunt Emilia Pisani din partea Celsius Initiative, un proiect care face parte din Parcul Științific Johanneberg și este un centru de colaborare pentru soluții eficiente care susțin orașele în tranziția lor energetică la sisteme neutre din punct de vedere al emisiilor de carbon. Henrik Mortensen, Strategic Property Developer, care va fi ghidul nostru de astăzi în turul virtual în una dintre cele mai inteligente clădiri din Suedia. Totul de la presiunea aerului, temperaturile și nivelurile de dioxid de carbon, până la consumul de energie, sunt măsurate, analizate și controlate. Sperăm ca spre sfârșitul întâlnirii să ni se alăture și Evdoxia Curaki, care va fi ghidul nostru în Living Lab, un laborator pentru cercetarea stilului de viață, o idee care a început încă din 2010. În cele 29 de apartamente ale laboratorului de locuit sunt echipate cu stații de monitorizare și senzori. 33 de persoane locuiesc într-o clădire aflată în permanentă schimbare, unde pereții, fațadele și interioarele se dezvoltă pe măsură ce cercetarea progresează. Dialogul cu invitații de astăzi va continua în limba engleză și așteptăm întrebările voastre pe pagina de Facebook. So, Emilia Pisani, welcome. I will start with you, and we would like to know more about Celsius Initiative. So if we can act, okay.
Thank you for this invitation. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I would like to congratulate you on this fantastic initiative of sharing knowledge from different countries within Europe and strengthening those ties. As Nicoletta mentioned, today I will be talking about the Celsius Initiative, which is a European project that lives on. So, as you know, cities, we work with cities. Cities are one of the greatest emitters of CO2 emissions in the world. When we're looking at the energy transition, they are the greatest consumers of energy, and that's where most of the population lives, even though they take up the least amount of space. These cities need to go through an energy transition, and they need to make a difference. In theory, over 50% of the energy consumed in Europe goes to the production of heating. And in theory, we have enough residual heat in all of Europe to heat the building stock. So we could use residual heat from industry, from refineries to produce warm water, which we use to shower, to clean, or to heat our homes during winter. So, on the premise that cities and districts are in the position to lead the energy transition, about 10 years ago, the city of London and the borough of Islington, Rotterdam, Cologne, Genoa, and the city of Gothenburg got together to think, we need to do something about this. There is a solution, and it's called district heating and cooling. In some countries, as in Sweden, district heating and cooling is very established and advanced, but we saw that in the rest of Europe, it was not. And how could we help other countries in Europe adopt this technology, which has been proven and effective to reduce CO2 emissions? So in 2011, they got together and applied for a project under the 7th Framework Program. If you know a little bit how the EU Commission works and their funding mechanisms, this is the grandparent of what today we call Horizon 2020. And through this project, we built 3 pillars. First, we developed innovative solutions for production, distribution, and utilization of heat. But we didn't want to just build demonstrators and send a report to the Commission and that was it. We wanted to share the knowledge, we wanted to spread these best practices. So we assembled a network of 72 cities and 68 city supporters between 2014 and 2017. And through these, we tested and then we shared, how does this work? How can it be replicated? But oftentimes you can have the solution, but you also need the right policies in place that will allow these solutions. You need the right subsidies, you need the right funding from a government level. So we worked very closely with the European Commission. And this was when the wave of greenification started. This was before Greta Thunberg. This was before we started realizing, okay, we're a little too late. So it was right timing when some of the major policies of the Commission came out. And we're very lucky to be able to time this. So for example, what are the solutions we put in place? In London, if you have been to London, the underground, the substation, the metro gets very, very warm because of the friction of the metro. So what we do is we take that heat, take it up, and then produce hot water and heating for the buildings on top of that system in the borough of Islington. And in exchange, the metro gets cooled. So that way they manage to even out the temperature in a energy efficient way. You don't need to install an AC and you create a circular economy. That was the production. For the distribution, for example, once you have a district, an energy system in place, sometimes it's very hard to balance the demands. So what you need to do is you need to produce enough energy, whether it's electricity or heat, that satisfies the demand. So when, for example, everybody showers at the same time in the morning, or when you come home at night, you turn on the light at the same time. And that can create over demand in the system. So what we've done is we connected to systems around us in Gothenburg, for example, to Kungälv or to Mölndal, which allows us to balance it out and sort of borrow from each other or loan to each other energy. And that allows us to avoid turning on very polluting energy sources that would demand fossil fuels. That's distribution. As an innovative solution, for example, for the use of this waste heat. So we have residual heat that, for example, in Gothenburg, we have a lot of refineries that they, instead of just emitting the heat up into the air or putting it in the water in the river, we capture that heat and put it in our heating system. And then, for example, we connect a ferry line. So when the big ferry is docked, we connect it so they can turn off the motor and save energy and save pollutions. And then when we disconnect and we keep the motor warm and we keep the ferry warm with this district heating. Another solution, for example, earlier we're talking about balancing the energy demand and the supply. What we use is we've tested using buildings. So when demand is low, when everybody's at work and at school and nobody wants hot water or electricity, we warm up the buildings so that when everybody comes home and there's a peak in demand, those buildings are already warm. So we don't need to heat them up. And that allows us to flatten the curve in the demand for the energy system. So once we established all those projects and all those demonstrators, gathered a network, it was too good to let go. We had all these cities, all this knowledge, and we didn't want the project to just end. So the city of Gothenburg asked Johanneberg Science Park, which I work for, to create a consortium and see how can we build on this? How can we continue on this track, helping cities accelerate their energy transition? So in collaboration with the Research Institutes of Sweden, IMCG, which is a small communications firm here in Gothenburg, and Euroheat and Power, which is the lobby organization in Brussels for district heating and cooling, we got together and decided to build a collaboration hub. Before I go on about Celsius, I would like to talk a little bit about Johanneberg Science Park, because this would not have been able to happen without this setting. Johanneberg Science Park is, our purpose is to build innovation that is good for society and for the environment. We push urban development forward through innovative buildings and systems. We create innovations for society that are good for people, the environment, and the economy, because we need to have a holistic approach when you innovate. We bring together academia and society because you need what we call a triple helix. You need researchers, you need public entities, but you also need private entities to collaborate and bring these public-private partnerships forward to make a difference. We pave the way for solutions to create sustainable cities and reach the climate goals set by the United Nations. To do this, we have a great array of partners that go from building to Akademiska Hus, for example, building owners, producers, energy companies. For example, we have Volvo, because we need to also connect all the systems and look at transport, buildings, parks, society. And so having the right partners in place is key. We also have our co-creation process is based on 3 values. We have heart, we want to together co-create, and we want to create value. And we work in all these systems, and being able to be having such a broad array allows us to connect to the partners and their networks when needed. So one example is positive footprint housing, but looking at the time, I'm going to go a little bit back to Celsius now. So how can we build on this European project that ended? We got support from 3 funding entities, and this is something I really want to say. There is funding out there. There's free money from the European government, from agencies to help innovation, to help develop solutions and spread them. And this is what we're trying to do city. So we got money from Climate Kick, from the Swedish Energy Agency, and from the European, from the Horizon 2020 Europe, to build a demand-driven collaboration hub. What is a demand-driven collaboration hub? From the project, we just innovated and distributed the information, but realized there are a lot of innovations out there that are happening that we need to make the best of. So we try to do continuous knowledge sharing. We have a monthly newsletter and a webinar. We pick a theme in heating and cooling, of course, and then focus on that. Through the newsletter, we present it, and the webinars, we try to go in detail. And these are open to the public, so please feel free to sign up and join. And if you want to learn more about these energy solutions, join us or visit our toolbox. Celsius, you'll see the link at the end of my presentation. Here you can find introductory information about heating, cooling, what other projects are doing, funding solutions, replication checklists, anything you want. So this is information that we want to put out there for everybody to access. We have hands-on support for cities through what we call our forerunner groups. I'll go a little bit more in detail about that. And Nicoletta, please let me know when I'm running out of time if I go too slowly. We continue influencing European policy because it is great to work with cities. But right now, for example, I don't know if you've heard about the Green Deal. It's being built. We need to talk to the Commission. We need to ask cities, what is it you need? So we can tell the Commission, please put in place these type of funding solutions. Please put in place these types of rules, these types of demands, so that it can help cities bring forward this energy transition, like help cities implement these energy efficient solutions. And last but not least, we support innovation, replication, and scaling because our philosophy is do not reinvent the wheel. For example, all these solutions I talked about at the beginning, the getting heat from the substation, connecting ferries, using building as short-term heating storage, it can be done again. It shouldn't be reinvented. It can be replicated in a different city. So what we really want to do is take these innovative solutions and see who needs them, how can we adapt them, how can we apply them. To do this, we need to share the knowledge, we need to share these best practices, and we need to bring people together through our network. We need to bring the stakeholders, the analysis, and so that they can talk and adapt to these solutions. Our purpose: accelerate the energy transition through the deployment of smart and sustainable heating and cooling solutions in cities. So if I have time, I'd like to go a little bit more in detail about our forerunner groups. Through these forerunner groups, we bring together city representatives, and by city representatives, it can be an association that works with the city to bring forward innovative solutions. It could be a publicly owned energy company because they're the ones implementing these energy solutions. It could be, as long as you're representing a city, and experts. We have a wide network of experts, and so we try to bring them and answer the questions. We have gathered these forerunner groups around 5 themes. Getting started. 3 are ongoing now, and 2 we will start very shortly. So getting started is for cities that have very small networks or no networks at all and want to start, want to look into the possibilities, what needs to be put in place. The waste heat recuperation. Here we look at what are the waste heat sources that you have in a city that I talked about earlier, and how can I utilize them? For example, Dublin here, which you see is the spearhead for this fall, they want to recuperate waste heat from a data center. We have, I believe that in the past 7 years, we have gone from 500,000 data centers around the world to 8.5 million. And that is just going exponentially. It would be a pity to waste all that heat, and the data centers also need cooling. So we want to create their circular economies around those possibilities. We can recuperate waste heat or heat from, for example, solar panels. You have solar panel, you create electricity, you can also create heat. How can we connect these networks? And so the third one is low temperature district heating. Here we look at advanced networks for what we call 4th and 5th generation, where you can lower the temperature, make it more efficient. It facilitates recuperation waste heat and including renewable energy sources such as geothermal or solar, as I mentioned earlier. The world is getting warmer, as we know. So we need more and more cooling. This is creating a vicious cycle because the AC units we use are very polluting. If they're electric, a lot of the time the electricity comes from fossil-based fuels, or the cooling agents they have are very incredibly polluting. So we need to find a solution to cool our homes, to cool our cities in a sustainable way. That's the group we want to start, and fossil-free. This fossil-free one is for cities and networks that have heating networks but use coal or use natural gas. There are ways to use sustainable sources instead, as biogas, or as, for example, what we use here in Gothenburg are pellets, where we use the residue from, for example, from the forest we burn it and heat our homes with that, or we burn our trash to create both electricity and heating. So this is what we're trying to help cities implement. Our approach, what we do is we try to help cities to implement these type of projects. It's a very long and complicated process. And if it goes wrong, the consequences could be devastating. I mean, we've heard too many times they spent thousands of millions of taxpayer money and it went wrong and now it looks ugly. So we want to try to help the cities is that each step is well planned. And if they can take forward, that they do. And if not, back out, go start again and do it right. To do this, it's a co-creation process with the city, with the people we're working with, based on a peer-to-peer support. We meet, so we coordinate around, we regularly switch spearhead cities. And around this spearhead city, we bring in experts that help them prepare. And that makes it that the solutions, the other cities, the foreigner cities around it, listen and get inspired. So basically, we are a sounding board for cities. We help them look at the big picture. How can we provide this expert support, and how can we include a systemic approach? By a systemic approach, what I mean is that you can't just look at the technology system. As we know, you put in place a solution, but in plus, what policy? Is it a green government? Is it government that's leaning to the right, to the left? What are the stakeholders? Are people, they're comfortable with their gas stoves? That's what they've had. That's what we've had for generations. They don't always want to change. What technologies are available? Is there funding to implement these things? What are the digitalization? And all these things influence each other. For example, do we have a pandemic and all of a sudden everybody needs to be locked in? So the demand curves changes because people are not going to the office and they need electricity and they need these heating. So we really try to look at everything together. And when we work with these cities and their project plan, and to improve these project plans, we try to do deep dives, what we look at their business models, making sure the financing is right, the pricing is right, that the policies in place at a city level and at a European level are in line with what they want to do, that they're talking to each other. Too many times, they'll dig up the street to put cable in, they cover it up. 3 months later, they open the street up again to put heating in, and then they close it again. We need to avoid that. We need people to talk to each other, so that if you open the street up, creating traffic, creating disruptions, you put everything you need to do to put in there: heating, cooling, electricity, cables, cover it up, and it's a one-time job. It's cheaper and less disruptive for the society. We also need to engage with stakeholders, with the decision makers, with the end users, making sure that they understand that this is the right solution for them on the long term and for the planet. What we do to help these cities is we meet regularly and discuss. It's just a dialogue, because just dialogues is really important. That allows us to better understand the needs of the cities and adapt and invite the right experts to come in. And we also have events. As mentioned earlier, these events are open to anybody. If you want to join us, we have webinar, we have our Celsius Summit coming up on December 9th and 10th, where we're going to be talking about funding and policy issues, focusing on Southeast Europe. So please join us there. I believe I'm running out of time, so just really quickly, the different roles imply different benefits, but what we want to do is that it feels right for the city representative, right for the actors involved in this project. And as always in these innovation projects, and you need to test, evaluate, improve, and repeat. So this is what we've been doing this fall and will continue doing with knowledge sharing, asking cities what they want and how we can deliver that, collaborating with the right experts in industry, in projects, in supportive organizations, and matchmaking, putting the right demand with the supply, or people who has a question and another one who has the answer because of their experience, and let them talk. So I believe this is, please do note, join us, contact us, celsius@johannebergsciencepark.com. If you have questions, visit our website. On this website, you'll also find the toolbox I mentioned earlier, and follow us both on Twitter and on LinkedIn. There we usually post when we have a new toolbox article out. We'll post it on social media. If we have an event, you can hear from it there. So with that, I want to thank you for this opportunity, for your attention, and for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Emilia. Your work is very important for us, and we will leave your contact details on the Facebook comments section on our transmission, because we are now live on Facebook. And it's very important that you offer access to your events, to your workshops, to your knowledge, so people from Romania can learn more about your what you are doing and how can we apply this in our society. I will
be delighted to have more Romanians join the network. Absolutely, we're missing that country there.
Thank you, Emilia. We will do something about that. I will go to Henrik now. Henrik, if you can hear us. I just made earlier an introduction in Romanian about your virtual tour that you will be our guide today in the most intelligent building, in the more smart building from Sweden. So welcome, Henrik, and let us know more about this a working lab. We will talk about the living later. Hello, Evdokia, and welcome to our meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here. And I will, as Nicolette just said, take you on a short tour in I have to say, probably not Sweden's even, but our smartest building so far, called a working lab. But before I do that, I would like to say a few words about Akademiska Hus, just as a background. I'll start my presentation just a second. Sorry, there you go. Okay, so a few quick words about Akademiska Hus, the company where I work. I work as a strategic property developer at Akademiska Hus. Akademiska Hus is a state-owned company, and we have a very specific mission. It's to own, develop, and manage properties for colleges and universities in Sweden. We're not the only operator. We have about 60% of the market, so we have competitors which keep us on our toes. And as a state-owned company, we also have extra pressure to perform even better in key areas, just like sustainable development. And I'm happy to say that we collaborate a lot with Johanneberg Science Park in many of their projects. Also, student housing is one of our mission points. We create more student housing that's lacking in many cities in Sweden. So just as a normal company, property owner company, we can divide our business into these areas. Campus development, where I work a lot, regarding long-term planning of campus areas, also sustainable planning, of course. Construction projects, we are quite a large operator. We have project portfolio of about 13 billion Swedish crowns. I believe that's about 1.3 billion euros. But the largest part of our business is property management, and we own about 3.2 million square meters of rentable area, mostly educational premises, but also laboratories and offices and so forth. And both in construction and in property management, we have a large, or we focus a lot on sustainable development and energy reduction and carbon dioxide footprint and so forth. And again, student housing. We are planning and making a reality of about 10,000 student housing units on campuses all over Sweden right now. So that's just a few facts about us. I wanted to mention our climate targets as well, because we set targets for us that are challenging for our company. And they're challenging in a way that we will not be able to reach them without collaboration. We need to collaborate with universities. We need to collaborate with other stakeholders, the city, the government even. But these are our main goals, and there are many more, of course. But in 2025, we want to be climate neutral when it comes to property operations. And the same year, climate neutral when it comes to internal operations in our company. And 2045, this is the most challenging, of course. We want to be climate neutral when it comes to project operations. We will not reach this if we do not collaborate, if we do not try to find new solutions and improve on old solutions, of course. I wanted to show you this picture as well, because this is the area I work mostly in. It's regarding campus planning and social sustainable plans for campus development. These are the pieces of the puzzle that we look into when we talk about sustainable development. It's not just about energy, it's also about social wellness, it's about transport, it's about, well, many different areas. And this is a lecture in itself, but this is an important area to mention, because it's really easy to just talk about energy and those kind of hard questions. Finally, we say that about 300,000 people work, study, and carry out research in our buildings every day, almost all over Sweden. The small dots on the map are where we're operating right now. And one of the dots on the western coast of Sweden, about halfway up, is Gothenburg, and that's where we're going now, just for the a short tour of a working lab. So this is Gothenburg. I think you're there right now, Emilia, aren't you, in Gothenburg? Yeah, I'm just outside of Gothenburg in my home. Right here is Chalmers, University of Technology. So it's quite central in the city. And in this part of the campus, you find Johanneberg Science Park. And here is where we built the building we call a working lab. And very close to this is HSB Living Lab, which I believe you, Eva, is going to talk about a bit later. So I'll try and start the tour. I'll have to change. Okay. So this tour is actually on a web page, so you can visit it later. We can send you the link. But I believe you recognize where we are. This is the building I had just behind me. We call it a working lab. And if I just pan around, you will be able to see the buildings that Emilia showed you, the golden one here, and also the black one over here. So this is Johanneberg Science Park. And the red building, as I mentioned, is a working lab. A working lab is 11,700 square meters office building, but also a test arena for innovation projects. So when we built this, there was a building project going on and a huge innovation project going on as well. Actually, there were 16 innovation projects going on at the same time in this building. And this short virtual tour will show us some of them. I'll mention some of them. I can mention before we go inside that there are approximately 430 workspaces in this, and we try to make all the office space as flexible as possible. That's also a sustainability question, because if it's flexible, the building's lifetime will be longer. You can use it for many different things. And on top of this building and building next to it, there is about 1,000 square meters of solar panels. And they were actually connected before the building was finished. So we used the solar power to power the construction site as well. So these circles indicate different innovation projects. And the first one I'll mention is the project about the wooden construction or the wooden structure. This building is one of Sweden's first office blocks made of wood, or mostly of wood. And we built this without weatherproofing. This is a project in itself. It's not the common way to do it, but we wanted to challenge what is the norm. Usually we put up a huge tent over a building like this just to protect the wood. But we said, no, let's try it without and see what happens. And the fact is that not much happened. We had to shovel snow a lot quicker when it was snowing, and we had to proof the seams of the building with tape. That was fine. This saved both money and time, which in the end is good for the project at whole. But then, as you can see in the picture, the building is not just wood. So it's actually hybrid framework. It means that we used wood as much as possible, but then we used steel beams. And this is in order to make the interior of the building as flexible as possible, because then you can have less interior walls that have to stand there. And then the core of the building is a concrete elevator shaft. And this shaft is there for not just for the elevator, but also for the stability of the building. So this is about smart choices. This is about building a building that's long-term sustainable, not just in the construction phase, but also long-term. And this flexible building, which is rigid, will be able to stand here for a long time. So there were more projects connected to the wooden framework. One of the problems with wooden framework and wooden flooring is acoustics. While walking on wooden floors, the sound travels a lot further than it would with other materials. So we had to invent a way to make this doable. And this was done in a very ingenious way. I won't go into details right now, but I can tell you more if you want later. But that was also an innovation project. So it's very large questions and very small questions in these projects. And I think that you will agree with me that innovation projects, you're supposed to just dive into them. And then it's fine if they work and it's fine if they don't. Otherwise, it's not an innovation project. And it also has to be replicable. So what we do here, we try to learn as much from, so we can do it in other projects in different buildings. And also share. Of course, we share. In all these windows I will show you, there's a line that says, that's the wrong name here. It's supposed to say partners. And these are our partners in this area. So we collaborate a lot with different partners to be able to do this as efficiently, as good as possible. Okay, so let's step inside the building. So most welcome to a working lab. I'll just show you here. We're here standing in the lobby at the entrance right now, and this open area is used for presentations, and it's used for showrooms as well. And on the other side, you will see our restaurant. It's called Waste, as in zero waste. They buy food that's about to expire in stores, and then they make beautiful food, lunch every day. And they serve quite small portions, and they always tell you come back and get more, because they want to preserve waste. They want to get rid of waste. And every day they actually measure how much waste there is. And since they operate a restaurant here and the restaurant just across the street, they can compare and get results of how it is to operate a restaurant like this. So the rest of the bottom floor is mostly open areas and meeting spaces. And if I just pan up, you'll see more meeting spaces, and these are open for public, these ones, and higher up you can book them. And I will also show you in the background, there's a door, and that door actually leads right into Chalmers University. And this is a major point of the building. We wanted to create, we call them creative collisions between students and professionals in Johanneberg Science Park, and also from different companies in this area. We saw that this building is actually just between Johanneberg Science Park and the university, and even though it's very, very close, the collaboration between students and researchers and staff were not that great. It could be better. So we are hoping to make this building a bridge and like a living space where you can have these kind of informal meetings and actually collide into each other and change ideas, just like we're trying to do now, even though it's digital. And let's see, behind the black wall here, you have our learning lab. I could talk loads of that, but that's not focused on sustainability, so I'll have to spare that for next time. I'll show you just behind the glass wall here is our makerspace, and that's kind of the same point, making a place where students from the university and from the city would feel at home to visit us and to collaborate with us. So more innovation projects. This one indicates the direct current project. And as I mentioned, we have about 1,000 square meters of solar panels on the roof, and those generate about 150,000 kilowatt hours of electricity every year. And when you have solar power, they give us direct current, and usually you convert that into AC. But when you do that, you lose a certain amount of energy. So in order to not lose anything, we installed lighting and ventilation in the building that can handle DC directly. This has not been done before when it comes to lighting anyway. So it was quite challenging in the beginning, and lights were going on and off without we knowing why. But this is part of an innovation project, and in the end, it worked out. And now we're measuring how much we're actually saving. As is that this is ongoing projects, many of them, so we don't have the results for all of them yet. But as long as they're going in the right direction, we keep going and try to learn as much as possible. Even if we fail, we try to learn as much as possible. Let's see. Oh yeah, this one is regarding the digital twin project. So during the construction of a working lab, we scanned the building 3 times actually, and we also 3D mapped it. The easiest way to explain it is like if you've ever used the Google Street View application, where you can like drop a small man and then you can actually walk in the digital environment, in a 3D environment, just like we're doing in the background here. But what we tried to do was have like 3 different layers of the building. So the first layer is where the building is just a kind of a skeleton. The second layer is where you can see all the piping and installations. And the third layer is the one we're seeing right behind us now. And this means that when you connect that to a BIM model, building information management system, then you can connect all the information you have in our internal systems with this graphical interface. So when you're trying to fix something in the building, you can like put up a camera, look through it, and then scale back the roofing and see the pipes behind it. And you know exactly where to go to fix something. This is a part of a digitalization process, and it makes the buildings more efficient. But the really interesting part comes when you add like all the hundreds of different meters and analyzing devices we have in the building. Because when you add data from those, you can do almost anything with the building. You can optimize them in ways we haven't thought about before. Just one example is we have CO2 meters in our meeting rooms, and through them, we can actually measure if someone is in the room. And if it's not being used, we can switch off the light and we can make it cooler, which saves energy, of course. And as I said, in a building for offices like this one, it's a quite small project. But then if you think about what our core business is, with classrooms and meeting rooms in your universities all over Sweden, it is a quite big factor and an important factor. So we finished this first in this building, and now we just finished mapping the whole of Örebro University's campus in the same way, for the same reason. So this is an example of an innovation project, small one, growing and being replicated. Okay, so the final one I'll show you is, for me, the most complicated one. Sounds almost magic, but it works, they say. This is the salt storage. So in the basement, we have this huge tank, And in this tank, there's a kind of salt solution. So the project is one of the first and largest physical test beds for phase change material. So this material is storing cooling energy, and it does it by utilizing the energy that is being made when the solution goes from solid to liquid form and vice versa. I'm not the expert on this, so I won't be able to explain it in more detail, but this means that we can, as far as we see right now, we probably can save about 25% of the energy consumption for cooling this building. And that's quite a lot when it comes to building this size. And this is also on top of what we usually do, which is trimming all the energy systems. I think I forgot to mention in the beginning that this building is certified by a Swedish system called Sweden Green Building Council, and it has the gold level, Miljöbyggnad Guld. So it's to start with the energy efficient building, and then if we add solutions like this, it makes it even better. So I have no idea how much time I have left. I could talk for ages about this building. I have many projects that are fascinating to me, and some projects I've actually been working in myself, like the Learning Lab, but we'll have to save that for another time. I hope you have questions. I will be happy to answer them. And if you would like to get in contact with me to get in contact with one of the experts in some of these areas, I will be happy to help as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Henrik. I just unmute my microphone. It was very interesting, and I think we are very lucky that we can now see this building and all the tests you are actually doing there. And I'm sure that there will be more questions after this meeting, and I know many people interested in this subject you are just presented. So we will continue our virtual tour with Evdokia. Welcome, Evdokia, again.
Hi.
Hi. I was presenting at the beginning of our meeting your presentation, so we are very anxious to learn more about the Living Lab you are going to present us.
Okay, hi. I'm really happy to be here with you and present one of the first collaboration innovation projects at Johanneberg Science Park, that is HSB Living Lab. Unfortunately, we are not able to welcome you here in Gothenburg and show you around, but we will do it virtually. I would like to share first some slides and then use the same tool as Henrik did and visit HSB Living Lab this time. So we'll try to share my screen and my presentation with you. Can you see my screen now? Great. My name is Evdokia Guragi. I'm a project manager at Johanneberg Science Park within the Open Arena Urban Development, and I'm a colleague of Emilia that presented beforehand, the Celsius project. And since Emilia has already presented a few facts about Johanneberg Science Park, I'm not going to present again. So I'm going directly to HSB Living Lab. That is an open arena for research of a future of sustainable living, how we can live in the future. And this is one of the first innovation projects, first living labs that Johanneberg Science Park has created together with Chalmers University, that Henrik also saw you in the pictures, and HSB. That is, HSB is one of the biggest housing companies here in Sweden, managing apartments and buildings all over Sweden. So why HSB Living Lab? How we came up with the idea of creating a living lab here in Gothenburg. The need came from the fact that we know that more than 30% of all energy goes to the operation of buildings. We know that climate impact from construction is comparable to emissions from all domestic travel and transport. And we know that the building and construction sector generates about one third of all waste here in Sweden. So HSB, that was one of the first partners at Johanneberg Science Park, expressed the need to develop an innovation project and deal with these problems. At the same time, the Chalmers University of Technology and the researchers there, they were also really eager to create a real life environment and test their ideas and solutions. So we were in the middle, Johanneberg Science Park. We said, okay, how we can bring these actors together and do something in the real world. So the idea of HSB Living Lab took place, and we started the discussions already in 2013. So it took a long time since we came up with the realization of the lab and the building itself in 2015. So what I can inform you is that you need time to talk and discuss and come with an idea. So in 2015, we managed to find the place in the campus of Chalmers University that is owned by Akademiska Hus, where Henrik works. And we decided to build a student residence and use it as a living lab, where students could live and at the same time can share their data and contribute to the research that we wanted to do. And the plan was that we will have this living lab in place for 10 years. So I can present you now the main elements of this living lab. So first of all is the building itself. That is a building made out of 44 steel prefabricated modules that we put it together. So it's like a Lego construction. So that was also innovative to see how we can build in a quicker way. And we managed to do that. Of course, they needed around 9 months to construct these modules, but only 10 days to assemble this building. So it was really amazing to see that happening. Of course, it's really important, the cooperation, the actors that are involved in this project. We have 3 main partners, as I said before, that is Johanneberg Science Park, HSB, and Chalmers University. But in 2015, we understood that it is not going to happen if we don't have more actors with us within the building sector, and that they are also facing the same challenges. So we decided to expand the partnership and include also other partners such as Akademiska Hus and other Swedish companies that you can see here. Some of them are operating internationally. So there are construction companies, IT companies, architecture design companies, energy consultants, etc. And all these partners, they have signed a contract of 10 years to cooperate and run this living lab and accept projects running in the building. But they have also created a common research fund where they contribute every year with a specific amount of money in order to fund project ideas in the lab. One of the most important parts of this living lab is, of course, the residents, because without them, we wouldn't be able to understand how life is going on in a building, what is the energy use, water use, so all the data coming from them is really, really important. We have 30 residents in the Living Lab. And here you can also see an illustration of the building, but we can go in a few minutes. And of course, the research group that we have with us from Chalmers University is really important. We have mainly the architecture department with us, but also the lab is open to all the departments of the technical university to come and test their ideas and pilots, prototypes. And they have also installed 2,000 sensors in the building. Here you can see a few pictures of them. So we have 2,000 sensors measuring almost everything you can think about, from energy consumption, humidity, weather conditions, movement of the tenants. And all this information is encrypted, and then it is shared with the researchers and partners when they want to test and evaluate their projects. Here's a little bit information about the innovation process that we have in the lab. As I mentioned before, we have a common research fund of 200,000 euros per year that we that all the partners contribute to this, and then we decide which projects will get this funding and run in the lab. We are accepting applications, project applications within 5 different project categories. That this can be scientific research projects that can take place in the lab, development projects, evaluation projects, demonstration projects like pilot projects, but also co-creation workshops, all connected to the building sector, but also living in apartments. And we have organized our partnership, and we have created a decision-making group where all representatives from all the 12 partners are participating in this group every month. We have a communication group in order to communicate our projects externally in the world. And we have a steering group where representatives from the 3 main partners are participating and taking decisions, more strategic decisions about what the focus of the lab will be each year. And we have a research conference, an annual one, and this time will take place in the 15th and 16th of April, virtually, so you're all more than welcome to participate, and it will be online, and there you will have the opportunity to see all the projects running in the lab and meet all the partners. We have more than 100 projects so far from 2015 until now running in the lab. Here are a few selections of them. So there are technical projects, but also more behavioral projects in the lab. So we have, we are testing building integrated solar panels as a facade material in the building, for example. We are testing different type of insulation materials, combining materials that we haven't done before. We have a district heating that is reusing excess heat from other buildings in the area. That is quite unique, actually. We have a project about laundry and how we can make it a better experience for the tenants. Projects like virtual keys, informing about water consumption in the building and how we can reduce water uses. But also we have this really interesting Greytex local grey water recycling system, where we have managed to recycle grey water coming from the showers in the building, filtrate it and reuse it. So we have some tenants reusing this grey water that is clear enough to reuse. And in this case, we diminish the use of water and energy. There are so many projects in the lab. So we are also open to and welcome new project applications all over the world who are interested to use our building as an environment to test and evaluate. So you can visit. Here there are some links. You can visit the website of HSB Living Lab, but also our website at Johanneberg Science Park, and learn more about the project or get in contact with me in case you need more information. I will now try to go to the virtual tour. Can you see my screen now? That is different. Yeah, so now we will go to HSB Living Lab. As you can see, it is close to Johanneberg Science Park and working lab. So here is the outdoor space. So this is the building and it's located inside the campus area of the university. Here outside we have some interesting projects going on. Here is a digitalized beehives. There was an idea from our partner Tieto, that is an IT laborator. So they have came with the idea to build a beehive and put sensors in order to help to collect data and better monitor the bees' well-being and understand how they live and act. Here on the side, you can see the integrated solar panels that we test two different types of solar panels as a facade material and compare them. We have seen at the moment that they can be cheaper than using traditional facade materials in a building. So therefore it might be a really good idea to invest in solar panels as a facade material. Here we have a prototype from Chalmers University. They have developed a molecular solar thermal window and they test it here in the lab. So this window absorbs sunlight and it can transform it to heat and store it and release it during the night. So really amazing. And here you can go to the waste room. So here is the collection, separation of the waste and different types, as you can see. But what is exciting is that we have installed these sensors in the waste bins. So in this way, we can get information when the bins are full, and we can pick the waste when it's needed and schedule the pickups in a more efficient way than before. We'll go out now. Here is also another really interesting project. It's also prototype developed by Chalmers and is an insulation material combining wood and another X-zip, another material that they haven't combined before together. And they put it as a facade material to insulate. There is also a short video about this, but I will skip it for now. So we can go inside. Here is we're in the entrance, and here you can see is a shared space that all the tenants can use, but also this is where we receive our guests. when they visit the Living Lab. So it's an open space. Here you can see also another project, the vertical farming, hydroponic farming system. Here at the lab, that the tenants can grow their herbs. And also you can take a look at the laundry room. This is the laundry room that the tenants use at the lab. In Sweden, it's usual to have the laundry room in the basement, but this time we have created a more user-friendly environment. We have installed washing machines that are more silent, so it's possible for the tenants to read or to socialize and do other things with people in this room while they're washing their clothes. At the same time, there are a few projects also running and using this laundry room. Here you can see some sensors. We have, for example, one project dealing with microplastics, and there we have installed different types of filters that can capture microfibers from different textiles, like acrylic, polyester, or nylon, and we can investigate and see the differences between these fabrics. So the tenants contribute with that by washing their clothes and sharing this information with us. And back there, you can see the gray tech recovery room. This is the room where the gray water comes from the showers above, and the filtration takes place, and then it's returned back to the showers. So it's really exciting. So yeah, I can now go up to the co-living space. And here you can take a look in one of the clusters where the students live. Here we have a common space, a common kitchen and living room shared by 6 tenants. Each tenant has a small apartment like this one that is in a cube form. So here you can, here is the bed of the tenant, and here it's a area and small kitchenette and the bathroom, as you can see. And here, of course, we have sensors measuring the humidity in the walls, CO2 emissions. We have also here, we test also the district heating system, the low temperature one, on the underfloor. It is tested in the underfloor of this apartment. So yeah, here's another sensor. Yeah, here is also a small short video about all the 2,000 sensors we have in the building and explaining what kind of data we are collecting in real time, and historic data as well. So this is it from my side. I think I will stop here. I don't know how much time I have.
It was great.
Yeah, but I can take the questions afterwards, or you can contact me and share more information.
I will start with you, actually, just to stay here longer in the virtual tour in the Living Lab. Actually, do you implement the solutions that worked, or you are just testing them and then you implement them further on other projects too? What is the procedure in this case?
The idea is that we implement this, we do both ways, as you mentioned. The idea is that the partner companies involved in the project, they test and implement in the new buildings that they manage or they construct. Like HSB, for example, they have they want to test to implement these solutions in their new apartments they own. but also we have used some of them and scale it up them in the campus area.
The quality of life is also measured in these living spaces that are tested?
We have a few projects, actually. Most of the projects we have, they are technical at the moment, but we are really interested to have more projects about investigating the quality of life of the tenants. There are some organizations here in Sweden that they have they have managed projects related to the change of behavior of the tenants when they get information about energy consumption in the building and how this has changed their the behavior. But we have also some projects that have initiated from the tenants. So based on the needs they have. But that will be really interesting to investigate further, the quality of life, of course.
So actually you have a feedback from the user.
Yeah.
That should
not only through the sensors, but also through interviews and discussions with them. And
in this tour, we saw spaces that are very similar with our houses, with our apartments. So we saw the same thing in the presentation that Henrik just made us in the living and in the working spaces. What is the feedback of the working people, of the people that are working there? What is their
Well, most of the innovation projects are like behind the walls and behind the floors as well, so they get kind of the experience of the finished product. So as I mentioned, the lights were blinking for a while and that was of course a problem, but most of the tenants, or all of the tenants, are well aware of that this is a building filled with innovation projects, and most of them are part of the innovation projects. So they kind of expect things to be a bit out of order before they are in order again. So I think just this building and the innovation projects has made a very good place for collaboration and in many areas. And as I tried to say, that this building is also designed for collaboration, for interaction. So there are no restaurants or eating places in the upper levels of the building. So every tenant is supposed to go down into the restaurant and have his or her lunch. And we know that not everybody will buy their lunch every day. They'll bring lunch. So in the back of the restaurant, there is actually a corner with microwaves. So you can heat your dinner from home, or lunch, I mean, and then you can have it with your colleagues eating in the restaurant. That's part of the concept. So far, I've only heard positive comments about the building and working in it. Of course, we've had a strange year, so I haven't been in the office that much to talk to people about it, but that's what I've heard so far.
It's an ongoing process, so there are new things every day, and as you already mentioned, there are solutions and materials that are still in the testing phase. So coming back to Emilia, you are one of the working let's say person in the smart building we just visited, and what is your feedback on that? There are many changes that we have to face in this sustainable way of working spaces, or working in a sustainable space?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and there are, and just building back on what Henrik said, it's funny, you usually don't notice. You think, oh, I'm going to really nice, the building is beautiful, we have a gorgeous, green wall, and you just come in, you're happy, it puts you in a good mood. I think it's one of the things that we've talked a lot that we missed, just coming into a green, innovative building, and it puts you in a good mood. You come, you meet people, you get ideas, and that's fantastic. Sometimes all of a sudden, the night lights will start blinking or something with the internet, but it keeps you on your toes. It's like, it's almost encouraging. It's like, oh yeah, we're testing this. It's okay. We can adapt. And talking about this flexibility that, for example, that we have no specific spaces to work has allowed us, I believe, at a personal level, to adapt a lot better to this working from home, because we were already used to not having a set space. We were already used to, I have everything digital on my computer. It avoids, you don't want to carry a lot of things around, so you don't print as much. And I think you see all these secondary and tertiary effects of working in such an environment and such a building. In addition to the boost, and as you say, sometimes it's you get really, in the restaurant, you get interesting mixes of, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that, and then it's fun to go home and replicate the food sometimes that you try in the restaurant with the rest, and it really feels that it affects you at different levels. It makes you a lot more conscious of things that you hadn't thought of before. Regarding the change, I would say some of it has been difficult. I had a hard time adapting to, I don't have a fast place, you know, I don't have a specific place where I sit every day. But after a couple of weeks, it's normal, you know, and it really is incredible, this capability we have as humans to adapt and for the better. And if we're willing to go to that short transition phase, which is not that painful, then it becomes a habit and you really don't think about it anymore. So I think it's one of the positive things of working here is this constant adaptation and improvement on the coworkers and on ourselves.
Thank you so much. It was very, sorry, Henrik.
No, I just wanted to comment and build on that, because that's really interesting for me to hear, because when we were planning this building, we were trying to make it as small as possible, which means that that's not usual for us. We want to make big buildings because it's more efficient, and we want to rent them out to as many as possible. But making a smaller building and having a discussion with the tenants saying that just minimize the space you think you need. Because if you need more than that, we will have a co-working area on the second floor. So have your office, and then the certain times of year, perhaps just a couple of months or a couple of spaces you need, then go to co-working area instead and rent those spaces. Because we made measurements on different houses and buildings before that, trying to figure out how much the different areas were used. And we found that meeting areas and meeting rooms and even classrooms and office spaces were used not that much, which means that it's not very efficient in any case, in any way, to have buildings that are not being used. So it's smarter to have more flexible, smaller buildings. Well, this is not a small building, but you know what I mean. And then use them in a more clever way. I agree, it was a transition period, but I also find it more positive than negative in the end.
Absolutely.
It was very inspiring to have you all today here, and I would like to thank the Embassy of Sweden in Romania for making this possible, and I hope we'll continue our dialogue next year also. And thank you all so much. I will switch now to Romanian to say goodbye to our audience. Mulțumim foarte mult tuturor, mulțumim Ambasadei Suediei pentru că a făcut această întâlnire posibilă. Vom lăsa datele de contact și informațiile despre fiecare proiect în secțiunea de comentarii și vom publica un articol detaliat despre fiecare idee și fiecare prezentare pe care ați văzut-o astăzi pe guerrillaverde.ro. La revedere și mulțumim tuturor!